Hello everyone. We have a game with the black pieces on our rapid speedrun against Shai Chai rated 1387. Let's see how this 1400 responds to the Pirc Defense. Well, they're so afraid to put a pawn in the center, 2 pawns in the center, that they just give us easy play on the dark squares, so we'll take it. Let's start off with our main setup of fianchetto and castle. And now we have our starting position where we can decide how to deviate. So he keeps developing, which makes a lot of sense. And now we should really control this pawn push. Although he didn't play it earlier, he still can. And we do want to fight for the center. So one of these pawn pushes, e5 or c5, makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go with c5. It's harmonious with our bishop development. And now he double stacks to provide this battery to get rid of our good bishop. Potentially castle long, which is fair enough. I'm just going to develop my knight to its most natural square behind the pawn, eyeing the center. He goes for a long castle. So now it's opposite side castling. And normally you want to launch the pawns up. Which I'm looking at. Can we play b5 immediately? Knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. Rook b8. Hits the knight. The b pawn behind it. If a4, a6. Let's say knight c3. Queen b6, threatening mate in 1. Looks pretty good. Do we start with queen a5 first? Knight b1. Knight b4. So queen a5 or b5? By the way, when you push b5 and let it hang, it's a more advanced idea. Even 2000s miss it all the time. They always go, oh, a6, need to protect it, but no. I just can't figure out which one's better. Let's, just for fun, because sacking this b pawn is instructive on how does that even work, right? And is there a difference between starting with rook b8 and starting with queen b6? Let's assume on either one he just goes back to where he came from to block the bishop's diagonal. Oh, he doesn't even take it. Well, that's not as instructive. Because if he lets me get it in without a6, then I can go a5 in one move and makes my attack better. So I don't want to take his bishop and get his queen closer to me. I do want to kick his knight though. If he does jump to a4, let's say he wants to blockade everything, right? That might be reason for us to go queen a5 here, stopping that idea and hitting the pawn. If he knight retreats to offer the queen trade, I'll just take the pawn. And because he let me take b5 and didn't even test me going down a line, I kind of have easy ideas. Either pawn to b4, knight to b4. The queen's pressuring the a pawn. He never got time to go king b1, which you should always include. If he takes the bishop, it's not check. Knight b4 doesn't work because the knight defends back and you can't kick the knight. But b4, let's just say knight in the center. Queen takes pawn, threatening mate. So let's say queen moves to create an escape square for the king. Then I take my bishop back. But at the same time, if he takes, you could take back first. And can he even stop your b4 idea? He goes a3, still go b4. Yeah, I don't even know if move order matters. I'm just trying to be fancy with intermezzos because that's how you get stronger, but you have to look for that stuff. In an ideal world, you never react to your opponent's moves, right? But that's not practical. Oh, he plays a3, but doesn't that kind of speed up my attack as well, I feel like? If I take this pawn, I'm hitting his queen. If he takes my knight, and I go check, and he takes my bishop, I don't have what I need there. Okay, so let's not throw away our pieces. And we should stick with the plan we've been looking at, which is b4. It hits the knight and the pawn. What does he do there? Knight b1? I can even start with rook b8. I'm not in a rush. Although I kind of want to just b4. Where does he go? Wherever he goes, I can take the bishop to lure his queen away, because I really want to take on a3 without the queen trade, because I'm going to attack his king quite strongly. If he takes back with the knight, or he'll take back with the knight, and then I can go rook b8 after that. Yeah, let's be more forcing in our method. b4. We have this light square bishop, but it's not really going to participate in the attack. Maybe in the end it'll provide some value, but at the time being, this pawn, this queen, this knight, and this rook are going to do the damage. This bishop is going to be traded, so otherwise it would contribute. And knight in here at some point is possible, but at some point, you know, let's say our bishop was here, we have a rook on c8. Now knight in here, because if he takes, we take with the pawn, opening the c file. It's, wait, so he just takes. So check forces knight back. I take the pawn, I'm threatening mate in 1 on a2. He moves the queen to create space. I give him the check, he runs. I take a pawn, okay, but I don't want him to run. If I take with the pawn, I open the c file, I hit the knight, and then I give checkmate unless he goes knight b1. That looks also quite strong. Huh. Here, knight b1. What's my move though? Suddenly it's quite odd. Yeah, quite odd, quite odd, quite odd. Knight takes. What does this allow? It threatens mate in 2, and it's sneakier than starting with the check. It doesn't open the c file, but I'll play on the b file. I don't want to move the c pawn because I really like the control over the center, and I didn't see a super good follow-up move, considering I'm going to trade this bishop. In this version, I'm threatening check, knight here, mate. Smothered mate. if he doesn't see it. It looks like I'm just recapturing a pawn, but I'm threatening smothered mate in 2. I'm not up anything, but white is going to lose this game because of his king. And what now? He has to maybe try to move his queen or rook so he doesn't get smothered. Oh no, if he moves the rook, he's going to lose the knight. If he moves the queen, though. Oh wait, he doesn't lose the knight. What am I saying? Because you move the rook, I give the check. You block with the knight, I give the check. Oh wait, you do lose the knight. What am I saying? In reverse. I'm confusing myself. Okay, so he takes my bishop. But that, I was threatening checkmate, wasn't I? Okay, so. I wonder what he was thinking about that whole time and not looking at the checks that I have. These are literally the only 2 checks that I have, and if you just looked at them, they were checkmate. So that was a cool checkmate. You don't see smothered mate like that. You know, the puzzle smothered mate is always you sack your queen to lure the rook in and then knight. This is just as cool. Why sack my queen? So that was, now a game like this is much more indicative of how a higher level Pirc game will go. Opposite side castle, where I go b5, b4 nonsense. Okay, so let's see. We're playing the Pirc. We attack the pawn. He defends. We want a fianchetto and castle. Okay, we start. Here, boom, center, development, center, development. Long castles. The second he does this, engine says black is minus 1.3. So I went from an even game to black's pretty much better. And it's not immediately obvious that black's a lot better, but white's going to want to launch his pawns up the board. First of all, he played h3 earlier. That's already one waste of a turn when you're going to be playing h4 in order to go h5. There's that. Also, his knight in front of his f-pawn. He never played f3, supporting g4, h4. He also never played f4, going for f5. So it's going to take him time to do what he should have done or is supposed to do if you're going to be opposite side castles. Meanwhile, I have the c-pawn. I didn't waste any time playing a6 or b6. I don't have my queen in front of my pawn. Like, I'm ready to go. So my attack's going to come sooner than his, which is not immediately obvious to lots of people. But hopefully I explained some of the things that white did that will slow down his attack. Also, he'll need to spend a move with king b1. If I turn on the engine, so b5 and rook b8 are by far the best. Well, are pretty much the best. Okay. a6 is a move to prepare it, but it's not as strong. So queen a5 is not even on the list. Glad I didn't play it. Okay, it's not just losing or something. It's still fine. It's just not as strong as b5, which I said is just a more super advanced idea. So I'm glad we played it. And if we do play it and he takes, just to show you something, I wasn't sure what the exact nuance between queen b6 and rook b8 is, but you know you want your rook on b8, not a8, and that will remain flexible for your queen to access new squares. So it's more natural to do it with your rook. He can either retreat back home, or let's say he tries to solidify it. Now if you forcibly kick it and he goes back, it's a similar position. So let's look at that without the c-pawn advance, which a lot of players will not do. Let's say he goes back normally, just trying to block the diagonal without weakening his king with the c-pawn. It says we're -3. I was looking at, see these two moves they recommend are the ones we were looking at. You just bring your queen out and you just maintain this pressure, this pressure. He'll probably go for a trade, and now his B file is super weak. You just winning on the spot. So that's if he takes. So now you have some idea of that pawn only gets out of your way, right? So he didn't take though. He goes for the trade, and now improving a piece for free because it comes with the threat of b4. And I thought a3 only makes his position worse. It does. And we just played b4 at -3, completely winning for black. So you're looking at these opposite side castle position, and you just see that he just created a hook. We're ready to blow open the thing. Our queen's right here, and he started nothing over here. He's threatening nothing. He's like 5 moves away from threatening stuff. So you could see why black is a lot better or winning. And we just continue with the advance. He takes, so now it goes from -3 to -5.5. Totally we're losing. We take with the knight. They called this a mistake, but your white's completely losing in both scenarios. It's just that this queen check is probably a more forcing way to get the mate. He has to block with the knight, and they will most likely recommend, oh, I was going to say my move, but there's an equally strong sack that I was looking at earlier because it opens this up, threatens mate, true, and it hits the queen. Okay, that's why. So they just got a little fancier, slightly more accurate version, because in my version, when you take, sure, you are threatening mate in 2, but it's hardly forced in the sense that, for example, king b1, simple enough, right? I'm no longer getting in. Having said that, his knight can't move, because then it will be checkmate, and you can continue from here with a -4 position. But their version was more forcing, so of course, engine's always more accurate. So, practically speaking, a perfect game, even with that one mistake. And so this is very much what your games will look like at a 1600chess.com level. If you try to play the Pircs, they're going to long castle, they're going to create this battery, trade this guy off, and you're going to have to show that you know how to attack on the queen side with this b4 pawn push, rook on the b file ideas, and bishop to e6 ideas. So this was actually a great game for you guys to see, to get a feel for what you're going to have to face. We got off the hook easy because we didn't really even face an attack. If you play a 1700chess.com, it's going to be a similar position, but they're already going to have their pawns like this far advanced, and it'll be more thrilling or scarier, right? More sharp for both sides. So we'll get to that as we climb. Good luck in your chess. Goodbye.